What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. Tyler, we didn't have the best day yesterday, so we had to bring in the big guns. We had to bring in Hoop. He kills DFS, but surprisingly, he's been really good on the show, too. So, Hoop, thanks for hanging out today and joining us. AP couldn't make it, but we appreciate you hanging out. How's everything going?
Yeah, it's going well. I think I got us a winner on Monday. I think the best bet pick on Monday. I can't remember who it was, but it was a winner. So we're gonna look to go back to back. But I mean, it is harder, nowadays to really decipher through these slates and pick winners from a betting perspective. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get at this point in the season. It's fun, but also can be frustrating. But we're gonna bounce back and pick some winners today. I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, we've had a good week overall. Just yesterday was the revenge of the underdogs. A lot of underdogs covered. And Tyler and I had talked about it. We got a little complacent because we had been cashing with favorites over and over again. You know, the stratification of the league was really starting to happen, and we were fading these tanking teams, and they had their revenge yesterday. You know, the Pistons beat the Grizzlies there. You know, the Pacers, we thought was a team completely imploding, right? Coaches are trying to fight the players. They came back. So the one thing I took away from that game was I was really thinking that the Pacers might have quit on that coach. That didn't look like a team that quit on their coach yesterday, flying around the court. So that was something interesting, and just maybe a reminder, because I think that I was guilty of this, not to take all these quote-unquote anonymous reports as gospel, because that didn't look like a team that quit on their coach. Tyler, did you have any other takeaways from yesterday?
Not really, other than we got hosed. That's about it.
Yeah, some of them we missed. Hey, you guys told me on the Wizards game, right? You guys told me there, so I'll eat that one. But regardless, these type of things happen, especially in this industry. But what do? We bounce back with some even better picks. So I'm excited to get on board for the evening. The first game we got is the New Orleans Pelicans. They're headed to Philadelphia to take on the Sixers. Tyler and I were a little split when we were doing some prep on this. No Brandon Ingram, of course. The 76ers have a much better roster. Will they play down to their competition? Hoop. The Pelicans are catching 9 points on a total of 227.5. What are you thinking for this game?
Yeah, I mean, the 9 it seems like a pretty accurate number. I mean, you have one of the better teams here in the 76ers that have, for the most part, all season long been playing solid basketball. If I'm going to go anywhere from a betting perspective, it will most likely be I'll probably side with the points here. I just think the 76ers are kind of in that coast mode that we talked about on Monday, where they're just going to coast to the playoffs here. And when you got a team that's coasting, it could potentially set them up for some disappointments down the stretch. So with this total being, with the spread being this big, 9, I'm going to lean the Pelican side. Now, for DFS purposes, for that same reason, the 76ers guys are mostly out of play for me moving forward until we get some price breaks or some guys resting, which we really don't have right now. They're kind of at full strength. And then on the Pelican side, for DFS purposes, with Brandon Ingram out, I really want to see, and Steven Adams is doubtful as well, I really want to see the starting lineup here, because if a guy like James Johnson gets in there, he's only 3.3K on DK, he'd become a solid play. If Jackson Hayes gets to start, he's only 3.5K, he would be a strong play as well. You can obviously look to Zion, but I think you're going to want to spend your salary in other places tonight as some of these stars in spots where they need to win. So for me, DFS purposes, I'm going to be focused on these cheap Pelicans guys, and I really want to see who's starting, because all season long in these spots, it's typically the starter that gets the majority of the run, with Stan Van Gundy, who on a side note, I think has just done a terrible job, and I think is a really bad coach. We talked about, I don't know if it was on here, or the hardwood was the Pistons organization, obviously a disaster, but the guy that just recently took over said that Stan Van Gundy was such a bad coach, it set them back years. So it's just a side note that I wanted to throw in there. But DFS-wise, I'm going to focus on these cheap Pelicans guys, the guys that are starting, and I'd probably lean taking the points here just because I got the 76ers kind of coasting through the rest of the way.
It's a terrible situation for Van Gundy. He just doesn't develop players well. Better for getting the most out of his veterans, but even then, he doesn't do it at the level of the top 5, top 10 coaches. Don't really see a place for him in the league on the sideline as a head coach anymore. He was a pretty good announcer, though. Hey, so we're not trying to run this guy out of a job. Maybe just one that he's more suited to. Tyler, I made some good points about the Sixers playing down to their competition, but you love this matchup for the Sixers players. Did you want to go into that?
I just think that it's a nice matchup with Ingram out because, Zion's going to have trouble in the paint. Lonzo's not going to be able to score you a ton of points against Ben Simmons. Mm-hmm. And you look at Philly's last 10 games, when they catch some of these bad teams, they just blow them out. They caught Houston in their last game. They beat them by 20. Mm-hmm. They caught Chicago 2 days before that. They didn't blow them out, but they won by 12. San Antonio held pat with them and lost by 2. They blew the Hawks out twice in a row, and then they blew OKC out. So, they get their hands on some of these bad teams. I think defense just overwhelms them, and the score just opens up. So, I don't mind playing that -9 here with Philly.
Yeah, and I think you make a good argument there. If anything, we know that Doc Rivers was brought in for his playoff experience, and he knows this is the time you want to ramp up, right? Playoffs start in 2 weeks. This is the time you want to be playing their best basketball. I wouldn't even mind staying away from this game. I think you guys made great arguments on both sides here. Originally, I was leaning towards the points, but boy, you guys made both good arguments. I think I'll stay away from this game. Let's jump into the next game. The Boston Celtics, 35-31, 31-34 against the spread. Head to Chicago to take on the Bulls, who finally got healthy and put a beat down on the Hornets last night. Zach LaVine returned. Vukovic dominated. Now they return home to take on a Celtics team that is fighting to stay out of the play-in spot. Hoop, what do you got for this game?
Yeah, I really liked the Celtics in the spot. I haven't been on the Celtics all that much this season. They've really disappointed. We talked about on this show a bunch how we really didn't care for the rotations that Brad Stevens was rolling out early in the year when they were rolling out Tristan and Daniel Tice together. Just didn't make any sense, and I think the team really paid the price for it. But like you said, they're fighting and they're battling to stay out of that plan. It is kind of an interesting dynamic here with this plan. These teams it gives them huge incentives where if you're locked into the 7 or 8 seed towards the end, you're just going to, you're whatever. You're not going to really play all that hard. But these teams just really are going to give it their all to stay out of the play-in. And this is one of those teams. Chicago looked good last night, but it's a back-to-back spot here. Obviously, no Jaylen Brown for the Celtics is a slight downgrade, but I just think they're going to want this more. Give me the Celtics minus the 4 here. DFS-wise, this is a great stay-away spot. There's just not much that stands out, even with Jaylen Brown out. You could potentially look to Jason Tatum. The problem is, the price tag is doing you no favors. On DK, you're paying 10-5. I can't pay 10-5 for Tatum. I can't play him over Luka, who's also, they're kind of in that spot where they want to avoid the play-in. Other spends on the slate, which I prefer so much more. So they've kind of priced these guys out for me, but I feel real good about the Celtics here.
All right, Tyler, we have to say that if Travis Mangone was here, he would say this is a Daniel Tice revenge game. Is that going to factor into your handicap here, Tyler?
Not really. Not Daniel Tice. But I second what Hoop said. I really love the Celtics in this spot. I think it's a letdown for Chicago. Off that big win yesterday, and they coasted like we talked about before the show spread, and they had no trouble with the Hornets yesterday. And LaVine only played in those small stints. I think it was 5 minutes at a time before he got subbed out. I don't see him doing much today, and I don't see Vucevic beating this team on his own. So give me the Celtics minus the 4. I think they win this game by about 10.
Yeah, Vukovic was key last night. They had no answer for him, so we'll see if Brad Stevens can dial something up. But I'm with you guys there. I like Boston here. I just think it's a tough situational spot for Chicago. Maybe a bit of a letdown coming off that big win last night. The team they beat is hosting the Orlando Magic. So the Orlando Magic are 21-45. 31-33 against the spread. The Charlotte Hornets 32-34, 33-32 against the spread. Charlotte catching 7.5, but this team is still depleted. Tyler, we had talked about it before we went on. Quick look at the injury report. No Wendell Carter Jr., no Cody Martin, no Gordon Hayward, no Miles Bridges, and no Devontae Graham. So those are some big names, especially Miles Bridges. I think he was key to their success. I think he's the toughest loss for them because they can't replace his defense. Now they're laying 7.5 at home against this Orlando team that really we don't talk a lot about anymore because they're pretty much done for the season. Hoop, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 7.5 seems like a pretty good number. Two teams that got so we talked about the Bulls and they delivered a beatdown. Yeah, it was to the Hornets last night. Is it a bounce back spot? Yeah, it could be. Like I think they could bounce back and beat the hell out of the Magic. I mean, the Magic have absolutely nothing to play for. But like I said, the 7.5 just seems like a pretty good number. But I'm there's just no way that I could ever bet on the Orlando Magic at this point in the season. There's tanking,
Right.
there are teams that have given up. Like they're right at the top of the list, and we haven't seen much fight out of these guys either. A lot of young dudes here. If I was going to bet it, I'd bet the Hornets. I mean, Hornets are a playoff team. I'd bet on them to bounce back here and beat the Magic, but don't feel super confident about it. DFS wise, Mo Bamba is going to be one of the more popular plays on the slate without Wendell Carter Jr. He's just been dominant from a fantasy perspective. 29 minutes, 31 minutes, 46 fantasy points, 54 fantasy points, only 6.1K on DraftKings. He'll be very, very popular tonight, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a guy that we knew for fantasy purposes. All you would need is some minutes. He's getting the minutes, and the production is right there. So really, really strong play in all formats tonight. On the Hornet side, they have those injuries too that you mentioned, but the problem is these guys are all priced up on DraftKings. LaMelo, who knows what we're going to see for minutes here on a back-to-back. He only played 23 last night, so maybe is able to play a little bit more tonight. But these guys are all much better priced on FanDuel. Some more FanDuel plays. Terry Rozier, last night he was 6'2". Let me just pull this up because I want to see where he's at today. Come on. Let's see. He is 6'2". Again, they didn't adjust his price. So he's a really strong play on FanDuel, shooting guard play over there. So like I said, Mo Bamba definitely in play on both sites. And then Rozier would be the guy I'm definitely targeting more so on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Our guy Richie Smalls in the chat wants to know what you think of RJ Hampton tonight. Is there any interest in RJ Hampton?
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy that has been playing pretty well, but the price has now caught up. He's 6.3K on DraftKings. But, I mean, he's got 42, 47, 36, but that's a big price tag, and you just don't know, like, if these minutes are going to continue. Yeah, I think they will, but I don't know if I can pay the 6.3 for him tonight.
All right. Tyler, what do you think of this game? And I think Hoop gave a good breakdown here. Are there any props out that you might target here? Maybe that might be a better way to approach this one.
I mean, maybe a Terry Rozier points prop, but outside of that, this is a complete stay away game for me.
Okay.
I don't like the Hornets with the injuries they have. I really don't want to lay 7 with them. Exactly. And I also don't want to take the 7.5 with the Magic and watch them go out there and not try. So this is just, I'm staying away from this game.
Hey, unfortunately, this is a loaded slate today, so you can afford to be choosy, right? It's going to be good. So the Minnesota Timberwolves are 20-46, 30-34 against the spread. They're heading to Miami to take on the Heat. Heat lane 6.5. But I was telling Tyler before we went on, Hoop, I think this is a tough one for us to give a play out because of that injury report, and maybe we'll get some news here in 17 minutes. But I don't understand how we would really give out an educated play without knowing the status of Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero. Victor Oladipo is continuing to be on the injury report, and I don't know if we even see him play for the rest of the year. But without those two guys, I think this game's tough to handicap. What do you think? Like, if they were to play, would you like Miami here? And if they were out, would you like Minnesota? Like, how do you approach this?
The way the spread sits right now, I feel like they're kind of playing the middle ground a little bit, and they really don't know whether or not Butler's going to play. If Butler does play, then yeah, I like Miami minus the 6.5. If he sits, I'd probably like the Timberwolves side to be able to keep the game close. So it's really, like you said, it's damn near impossible to really give an educated breakdown here. DFS wise, is not the greatest spot either because we know Miami is one of these teams that actually plays pretty solid defense. And, one guy I would consider on the Timberwolves side would be Vanderbilt, playing some minutes. He's really cheap. He's only 3.6K. So, he'll play 25-ish minutes most likely, but a really active guy, just really active when he's out there. There's no reason to not give this guy minutes. So he'd be the one guy. Now, if Jimmy Butler sits tonight and Tyler Hero, we could look up Goran Dragic. He's still only 5.4K. Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson's really cheap. Bam Adebayo. So it would bring these guys into the conversation in a really good matchup against a team in the Timberwolves that doesn't play much defense. But we need the news. This is an hour after lock, so there's an outside chance we get it.
All right, yeah, Tyler, we went over how this is tough to cap without the information, but do you have anything else you want to throw in this game, or do you want to just go to the next one?
Even if you get one of those two guys in, even if it's Butler, I still kind of lean Minnesota because we've talked about it before. It's almost like they're trying to establish that winning culture up there.
I think they are too.
Yeah, so it's like you're going to get effort out of these guys, even though they're one of the bottom teams. And I just think it's a nice matchup for them. They have the wings with Edwards, and they have the big man in Towns, so they kind of match up well with Miami.
That's a good point, really. It's actually a really underrated point because there's a lot of teams in the NBA that are just completely, out of the playoff picture, and they're, giving up essentially and just, not playing their guys. Minnesota has a young core still, and obviously the season didn't work out well for them, but they're still playing their guys, and they're playing hard, and they're fighting, and it's, that's something that is pretty rare at this point in the NBA season. So I think that's a really strong point you bring up there.
And we've seen that how these teams are in the West. They all have so much talent. And I think Phoenix put out a little blueprint last year. Hey, you go on a streak at the end of the year. You go in the offseason, feel good. You add a veteran. Now, there's not a bunch of Chris Pauls always available, right? But it still gives you hope. Hey, the right veteran can move this group of young, talented players here to a real team. So I'm not necessarily against what they're doing, and I hope more teams follow suit here. A team that's not following suit is the Houston Rockets, as they're catching 16.5, heading to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. And Houston let Bill Belichick do their injury report today. So I'm wondering if they got in trouble. I don't know. They put half their almost their whole rosters on this injury report. I mean, they're going to have to play someone. I don't know. Are they gunning for a forfeit here? I have no idea what's going on. 16's way too many to lay. I know you guys got to do this for DFS, but for betting, right? I mean, this is the easiest scratch off on the list, right?
Well, for DFS, it looks like a bad spot, but the problem is, if the Rockets are only rolling out 8 guys,
you're going to have to run them.
Yeah, they're still projected to score 108 points. So,
yeah.
We got to see. As it stands right now, they could really only have 8 guys. But if you factor in all the questionable guys, they don't have enough to play this game. So, like you said, they're doing something funky here with this injury report. With Olynyk listed as questionable, Christian Wood's questionable, Augustine's questionable, Tate's questionable. If you go to their actual roster, those are their key guys tonight for this game. Yeah. So something has to give here. We don't have the information, but if the Rockets do only have 8 guys available, we're unfortunately going to have to look to them in DFS. And we'll, cover all that in the Hardwood show this afternoon with me and AP. Now on the Buck side, this is the side that I don't want anything to do with here. Massive favorites, -17. I wouldn't be surprised if we get something throughout the day that one of these guys is going to sit. Giannis, Middleton, Drew, maybe a combination of those guys. No reason to roll those guys out.
Even if they sat all 3 of those guys, Milwaukee would still be a favorite.
Yeah, I think they'd be a big favorite still. I really
still
do.
Be -5 probably.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just can't imagine they're going to roll all these guys out. If they do, I could see it be a situation where it's 25, 26 minutes, and that's it. I think the Bucks are a great team to fade tonight. Rockets, we got to see who plays. If they have 10 guys, then I probably want nothing to do with this team. But if they're only down to 8, we're going to have to consider them because they have this team total that's still at 108 points. They're going to score points some way. So. Not a comfortable situation, but one that we'll have to address later.
All right. Yeah, Tyler, we talked about how this game is tough to handicap. Did you have anything more for it? Is there something that we're missing here, Tyler?
I just want to talk about Christian Wood and how he left Detroit to play for a contender at the beginning of the year. And now, look, he's on one of the worst teams in the league. So, you got to feel for that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough situation, huh?
If you had to pin me down on a side in this game, I think all those guys play today because they don't have another game until Monday. If they were on a back-to-back or they had a game Sunday, I think you'd maybe see them sit. But having 2 days off, I think you get everybody. Okay. I'd probably lay that 16.5. They're going to blow this team out.
Wow. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Sometimes these bigger numbers have been the easiest bets on the board.
And I
You lay
mean,
16 and then win by 30.
if there's ever a team you need to go out there and beat up on a bad team, who does it? Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a good
Good point.
point. That's a good point. All right. Let's jump into this next game. Boy, they're just giving us a bunch of huge spreads today. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 21 and 45, 24 and 42 against the spread, head to Dallas to take on the Mavericks, 38 and 28, 32 and 34 against the spread. Dallas, of course, coming off a nice win over the Brooklyn Nets last night, fighting for that spot. The win and the Lakers lost moved them a game ahead of the Lakers in the standings, but they hold the tiebreak, so that's essentially a 2-game lead there for that 5th spot. So a nice win for Dallas. You think they'd like to keep it going? Am I reading this injury report right though? Am I going to get some Larry Nance action, or is he just not even on the daily one anymore?
Let me see.
I'm double checking here.
Yeah, they don't have him listed, man. I mean, maybe, but he's not also listed on like the roster.
Oh no. I got him out on Monday, April 26th, expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks with a fractured right thumb.
Okay, yeah, so they just kept him out.
Okay.
And two, that would be 2 weeks of today, so maybe it's kind of up in the air. I don't know. Yeah,
If he plays, you can interest me in Cleveland. If he doesn't, I'm not going to get involved in this game.
Yeah, so Dallas. I've ragged on Dallas like all season, but I have to give them credit. They've actually started playing some solid basketball, and the guys I've ragged on, specifically Tim Hardaway Jr., has really stepped up. And he like the way he's playing right now is what they need him to do. He has to be a scorer. They need that score. Porzingis, I mean, the injuries continue to linger. You really can't count on him. So I really like what they're doing with Tim Hardaway Jr., letting him be really a big piece on the offense, a secondary piece next to Luka, and it's resulted in wins. And they're playing solid basketball at this point. Beat the Nets last night. They obviously they're one of these teams that's going to be fighting to stay out of that play-in tournament thing. So I'd probably go with Dallas here, minus 10. I feel pretty good that they can beat up on a team that isn't necessarily looking to win basketball games. Willie Cauley-Stein's actually been playing pretty well. He played good last night, but the minutes are really limited. So for DFS purposes, Luka, I think, is a guy to consider tonight. It's a team that, like we said, they want to win. The problem with Luka, hasn't shown that big upside that we want for DFS. If I'm deciding between him and a guy like Jokic, I'd probably go to Jokic, but Luka's a decent option. Tim Hardaway, the price has come up a little bit, but I think I still like him. He's just playing good, and especially in DraftKings where you get the 3-point bonus, you get extra half point for 3-pointers. He's going to shoot a lot of them. So I don't mind him on the Cleveland side. Looks like most of their guys are in, and then I guess there is some uncertainty around Larry Nance. Garland is out. I'm not going to play any Cavs here on the road against Dallas.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, and I should have known this because this is just a funny bit of trivia. Anderson Varejao took Larry Nance's spot. So Nance is out for the season, but that's why he's no longer on the report, just like Klay Thompson's not on the daily report. Gotcha. So I should have known that because I love Larry Nance as far as what he does for that Cavaliers defense. I think this team is really hard to back with him out, and we've talked about it before. Garland and Sexton, we talked about this backcourt when it first came together, not being able to work. Now it's like I hate the backcourt when they're not together because it's too easy to scheme against. You can trap one guy too easily, but when they're both there, it seems to make it a lot harder. Always the defensive deficiencies. Isaac Okoro's been fantastic. I think that's been a great draft pick for them. I don't think all is lost here in Cleveland, but I don't like them tonight, especially missing Larry Nance. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like Dallas here. And it's not even just missing the Larry Nance. It's more missing Darius Garland.
Yeah.
I think just when one of those guards are out, this team just takes a giant step backwards.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Luka should have a field day today against this team, barring there's no late injury news where he rests tonight. Yeah. But, I mean, and since April 18th spread, this team's 8-3. And all three of those losses came to your team.
The Kings, I know. The Kings are undefeated against the Nuggets and the Mavericks. You take those games out, we would have had such a better draft pick. That's just so wild that it, just a weird matchup in that regard.
Yeah, it's such like a weird thing that they just have these teams' numbers, but they just can't beat anyone else.
Yeah. And the Cavs, I think, are 0-8 against the spread in the last 8 games. I think the number indicates that because if you're just to run the model, it's going to tell you this game comes out at 7. But I think the 10 is appropriate for the way that these teams have been playing. And you're right. I'm not as concerned about the back-to-back. Let's switch to basically what I think is the premier game of the night. It should be a lot of fun. It's the Denver Nuggets, 44-22, 32-34 against the spread, heading to Utah to take on the Jazz. The Utah Jazz are laying 4 points. The total's 217. Hoop, this could be a game where there's no guards at all. It's just all forwards and centers on both teams. I mean, these teams have both been just racked by injuries in the backcourt. I still like the Nuggets. Maybe it's just because they've won me so much money. I mean, I've been riding them since Murray went out. I think they're 10-2 since Murray went out. I'm just going to keep going back with this team until they falter with me. What do you think?
I'm with you, man. Like I've been with you basically every day on this team, and people were doubting them, and I don't know. They're just playing. They're playing good basketball, and the lineup they're rolling out is perfect for a matchup against the Jazz. I mean, the Jazz don't have okay. So if you're going to roll out a big lineup, you don't really want to go against a team that has a bunch of speed. The Nuggets don't have that speed that can beat this big lineup for. Or the Jazz don't have the speed that can beat these Nuggets guys. So I really like the Nuggets in this spot. One of my favorite plays here, DFS wise, definitely going to be looking to Jokic. I think Rudy Gobert gets this perception that he's such a good defender. It reminds me of like Ben Wallace back in the day. Like Ben Wallace, one-on-one defense would get beat constantly. But the help side defense is where he became so elite. That's kind of how I feel with Gobert. He's more of a help side defender, not a one-on-one defender. I think it's a spot here that Jokic can kind of expose him. I think that, like I said, the lineup they're rolling out is perfect for a matchup against the Jazz. Feel really good about the Nuggets. DFS wise, probably only Jokic, maybe Paul Millsap as a cheap play. He's only 4.1K. Probably gets a little more minutes actually in this game. He played 24 last game. I wouldn't be surprised if he played 28 minutes and 4.1K. It's solid price tag. Aaron Gordon, obviously low floor, very low floor, but he's also very cheap. And I just think they really stick to this big lineup here tonight, and it's going to pay dividends. So I think you can consider a few of these guys, but really like the Nuggets side.
All right, Tyler. We both like the Nuggets catching points in Utah. What do you think?
Make that 3 because I just think it's a bad matchup for Utah.
Love it.
I mean, we've seen Jokic dominate Rudy in the past. And just like Hoop said, one-on-one, he can't guard him. But when he's lurking around the paint, he's one of the best defenders. So, I mean, he'll drag him out to the 3 line. I think Porter torches Bogdanovic and Ingles, whichever one you put on him. And, I mean, Campazzo should have a nice game too. I mean, he's going against like third-string guards for them. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't mind his points prop at 9.5 either.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty low. He's went into double digits 4 out of his last 5 games.
Yeah, so I guess, Tyler, the only question is, do we take the money line, or are you just going to take it safe and grab these points?
I feel a lot safer just taking the +4. Because, I mean, I think it's a close game. In worst case scenario, I think we lose by maybe 2.
Okay.
So I'd feel more comfortable with the points. I'd hate to not take the points and we take the money line and then lose by 1.
Well, I love it because, we kind of had a lot of games that we said wait and see on. But there we go, 28 minutes in, but thanks for sticking with us. We definitely gave you a solid pick there, and I would be surprised if that isn't one of our 3 best bets. Let's talk about the New York Knicks. Tyler, the New York Knicks, your team. They're heading to Phoenix. Phoenix is laying 6.5. The Knicks have been fantastic. Of course, they had that tough loss to Denver. That was their worst showing in a while. Not the fact that they lost to Denver, but just the manner in they lost. They were really never close the whole game. Final score might have actually been closer than the actual game felt. Phoenix coming off that basically fatigue loss against Atlanta. So they've got a little rest. Now they return home. The Knicks are catching 6.5. The total's only 217. Hoop, on those lower totals, I like taking the points. I think this is a great bounce back spot for New York. I like the 6.5. What do you think?
Yeah, we're kind of in lockstep again here. So a couple weeks ago, I was on the show and the same matchup. The Knicks were at home and Suns were favored, I believe, by 2. We were on the Suns. The Suns took care of business, got the W for us.
Yeah.
I'm reversing back. I think this might be a little overcorrection in this game. The 6.5 seems like a little bit too much for me here. So give me the Knicks. DFS wise, the Knicks games are just typically fades, especially on full slates. We have 10 games. They do a really good job of making these games not very what's the word I'm looking for? Not very DFS friendly. They just muddy these games up a little bit. I guess you could potentially play a guy like Torrey Craig, super cheap, showing some upside, but the floor is pretty low. But for the most part, I'm going to be off this. I mean, there are some who's out here for the Knicks. It was Burks and Quickly are doubtful. So if both those guys are out, maybe Elf Payton, Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett, but it would take both of them, I think, to be out before we could really consider some of these dudes. So definitely really like the Knicks side, though.
Just bringing that up, and sorry to derail this, but did you guys see that point guard that the Knicks signed out of Argentina?
I heard about it. I didn't catch the name
no.
and the highlights or anything. I didn't see.
Is he going to be able to play for you guys during the postseason?
He may be. I'm not sure.
I mean, he signed as a free agent. It seems like they should be able to get him in there. Anyways, that seems exciting. His highlight. I mean, I follow a lot, or not a lot, but enough of Nick's Twitter. I mean, his highlights were all over my timeline.
He's got to be better than the last international point guard the Knicks signed, who was like 39 years old.
Who was that?
Pablo Prigioni.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was going to be good, too.
Hey, if you can get in there and bet the Pelicans, you might want to do it. They just bumped Embiid to questionable. I bet he sits. Injury recovery, questionable.
Yeah, he ain't playing then.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get it.
I just bet the Pelicans there.
Let me see if I can get it in. No, did they just take it off the board?
I think so.
Yeah, it went dull on me as I was putting it in there.
He's not going to play.
Yeah, once you see that injury recovery tag, you know he's not playing.
Yeah. And it's 10:30, so only 2 games went off the board, though. That's pretty good. We had that one show where more than half the board went off. We're trying to give out the best bets.
That was so bizarre. You went to the best bets portion of the show. You make a pick, and literally as you made the pick,
the game is going
off the board back to back. That was great.
All right, so Tyler, what do you think here? Did you have a reason for the Suns to take the Suns here and lay the 6.5?
I just think it's a tough matchup for the Knicks. I'm probably not going to make a play in this game, but both those guards being out really, I think, hurts the Knicks because, I mean, Quickly does bring that punch off the bench for them.
Yeah.
And I just think Phoenix just overwhelms them. Chris Paul will keep that team calm the whole game. I just think they run away with it.
All right.
I like the over in that spot. I think 217 short.
Really? That's funny because I was going to make a case before I went to the next game. I was going to make a case for the under here. Isn't this two of the slowest paced teams in the league?
I could pull those numbers up real quick, but
please do.
Two of the better defensive teams, and neither of them play super fast. So I mean, it's not a great combination.
Yeah, pull up some pace for us real quick.
Last 10, Knicks are 19th. Suns are 23rd in pace.
Yeah, all right. Okay, cool. Well, Tyler, you and I are opposite on this game. The great thing, one of us will be right. So we'll move on. Hoop and I like taking the points there. Tyler likes the Suns. He's worried about the New York Knicks not being able to get up and it being a tough matchup. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. What's going on in LA? It almost feels like sometimes we see this in the NFL with the Super Bowl teams where you play that extra season and you just can't stay healthy the next year. Shades of the San Francisco 49ers season, it almost feels like, as players are going down left and right. Last night, Anthony Davis leaves the game with back spasms. I see him as probable tonight, though. That's interesting. I actually kind of capped it.
Isn't it kind of crazy, though, how he left the game with back spasms after we watched him roll his ankle?
Yeah, what's going
on? It's like where'd the back spasms come from? He didn't even bump his back on the table that was right there. It's like he's tweaked
weird. Something weird going on there because they said LeBron the reason he missed the last 2 games wasn't injury related either, or something. They said.
Yeah, I don't know what they got going on.
Something bizarre.
My favorite though is LeBron made the statement that whoever made the play-in should be fired.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if we rewind to last year when he was a 1 seed, all he talked about was how he wants all these teams like Portland and Memphis and New Orleans to have a chance to fight their way in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now that the tables have turned, you don't want this playing game.
The biggest hypocrite in sports, LeBron James. I mean,
Yeah.
they have the direct quote where he's saying, yeah, all those teams at the bottom should have to battle it out to get in. And now that he's one of those teams, I don't want those rules to apply to my team anymore.
Yeah, I know. And we know as handicappers and doing the DFS, right? I think the play-in's been absolutely fantastic. We talked about it yesterday. The Wizards would have already shut down right now. The Pelicans, I don't think Zion Williamson would even be playing games.
Nope, they would have sat him.
There would have been no reason for him to continue, right? Sacramento's still got a glimmer of hope. They're still running out their best lineup. So it's making it easier for us. And wait till that week. That is going to be so much fun. I am actually looking forward to that week. One and done. Why do people love the tournament? I know you're not a big college basketball guy, Hoop, right? But I know that the reason people love that is the one and done, right?
Oh, yeah.
Gonzaga wouldn't lose a 7-game series, but they can
those
lose
games
that
are
one
going to
night.
be like that. Basketball in crunch time is the most intense sporting event there is. I mean, you put all these teams in that situation, it is going to be phenomenal from an entertainment standpoint. Like I am looking, and the Wizards, man, I swear, like I just have some sort of suspicion they're going to like get in and like shock somebody.
Yeah, they're knocking somebody out.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. That would not surprise me at all. But on this game tonight, the Blazers laying 8.5 here. It almost seems too easy. The main reason I would say not to bet it is because you missed all the closing line. It's open at 6.5. So you're getting the worst of the number here. I don't want to back the Lakers here. Is there any way they bounce back? What am I missing, Hoop?
No, I mean, I definitely still, if I was betting this one, it would have to be the Portland Trailblazers. But, the number has come up, so you feel like you're missing out a little bit. But I'm not betting on the Lakers. I mean, the way they've played, the talk around the organization, just like nothing is pointing in the right direction. So definitely not going to be betting on the Lakers. I'd bet on Portland. That being said, this is a great spot to avoid for DFS. Makes it easy. This is a 10 p.m. Eastern game. I guess if Anthony Davis were to sit, I mean, they said it was weird too, because they said like right away after that game that he was going to play. So if he was so injured yesterday or back spasm, whatever it was, where he couldn't play yesterday, how do you feel so good about him being able to play the next day? Like it just doesn't, nothing is adding up with the Lakers. Just, this is a good game to be off of. The cheap guys, the prices have come up, like Caruso's now $5K on DK. It's just a good game to be off.
All right. Tyler, what do you think? You still laying it here with Portland, or did that line move too much?
If you had to pin me down, I would. But I think you could wait and maybe halfway through the first quarter catch it at a better line. Because, I mean, how many times have we seen this Portland team come out a little slow, let the other team take the game over, or just have like that lull in the game where the other team just goes on a nice run? So I think you can catch it at a shorter number if you just watch the game live. Yeah. And I mean, even though this game, there's a lot of injuries and guys are missing, this should be one of the more entertaining games. We should get effort out of both of these teams. I mean, this is the tiebreaker for the playing game. So this game means a lot.
Yeah. So it'll definitely be on my TV tonight. Looking forward to it. So this is one of the games that flashed on and off the board. Let's see if it is back up.
Is it the Sacramento game?
Yeah. What's the news?
Harrison Barnes is doubtful.
I mean, did anyone think he was going to play?
I don't think he was on the injury report beforehand.
Oh, I wasn't expecting him to play. That seems like a pretty serious injury there for Mr. Barnes. Now the Spurs are -5 in Sacramento. A lot of the guys I talked to thought that line was pretty high, but I don't know. Being a local guy and being aware of this team, no Fox, no Barnes. Those are two of the better players. I kind of like it here. I think this might be a little bit of an overreaction to how bad San Antonio looked against Utah, because we were definitely disappointed in the Spurs' effort in that game. That was when I had Mangone and JSU on. We all thought the Spurs were going to keep that game close and cover the 6.5, and they ended up losing by, what is that?
They got smashed that game.
Yeah, 32-point loss to Utah. The Spurs have lost, how many? 4 in a row. Gosh, should they be laying 5 on the road even to a completely terrible Sacramento team? Hoop, what do you think?
These are like two of my least favorite teams in the NBA to bet on or bet against. So, I mean, I'm going to do
Kings are a good fade.
Yeah, I'm going to do myself a favor and just like not consider betting on this. And I know for DFS purposes, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to the Kings. So betting wise, I'll let the experts, you guys, discuss that portion of it. I just hate betting on either of these teams. DFS wise, there's a lot to like here because the Kings have a condensed rotation with all these injuries. DeLon Wright is just playing phenomenal basketball last 2 games. Absolutely has gone off. 55 fantasy points in both games, 37, 40 minutes. He's going to play as many minutes as he can handle, does it all on the court. He's a really, even with the increased price, the price has come up, still a phenomenal spend tonight. Bagley still has a really nice price tag on DK, only 5.9K. Yeah. Really, really strong option tonight. Another guy that will play over 30 minutes, assuming this game stays close. And then Rashawn Holmes has not played all that great the last few games, but he has big time upside. He'd be my third favorite. And Mo Harkless, 3.6K. Another guy. He's going to play a lot of minutes, 3.6K, doesn't need to do a ton. So really like these Kings guys tonight for fantasy purposes. Sports betting wise, my hands are up.
I'm with you on this game. These two teams I both want to fade, and they're playing each other. Tyler, what do we do?
If you're going to pin me down to a side, probably going to surprise you here. Give me Sacramento.
I don't think that's that much of a surprise. I mean, this San Antonio team is playing absolutely terrible.
I'm not backing the team that shoots the least amount of threes in today's modern NBA.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not worried about the guys out for Sacramento. We're still going to get Buddy Hield, who's going to shoot a ton of threes. Wright will push the pace. He's been playing great. Bagley put up 31 and 12 his last game. So, I mean, I think there's a path for Sacramento to win this game easily and just run them right out of the building.
I mean, you brought up two guys that if you're going to bet Sacramento, right, that's got to be the crux of your handicap here. Marvin Bagley starting to live up to that potential. And, of course, we hate him here in Sacramento because he's not Luka. But, if you took that pressure off his back, this is right around the time he would really start to develop. He's getting some playoff time. The talent's always been there. Wouldn't be there. But DeLon Wright, I mean, that was a throwaway trade at the deadline, right? I was like, what is these teams doing? I liked it from the Sacramento side, but then you look at how Corey Joseph's fit in Detroit. It just seems like two guys that the GMs knew needed a new situation, and they got it, and they're both just thriving and doing so well. DeLon Wright's a great reason why I would look to back this Kings team here. I mean, I guess we got two terrible teams, right? You got to default towards taking the points here, especially if it's 5. If it was just 1 or 2, right, then they're telling us
then
pick
it's a little different.
But getting 5 points against a team that's lost 5 in a row, and I can't remember the show that it's on that we were on, but one of our guests on here, it wasn't me because I remember taking the notes, but it's turned out to be true. That Derek White injury meant a lot more to the Spurs than we realized. I don't think it's a big coincidence that when he got ruled out is the beginning of this losing streak here. So I think he was doing a lot for that team. That everything that we just said, though, I think there's nothing wrong with not getting involved in this game, right? I mean, the playoffs start in 2 weeks. Sometimes it's better, it's better to not make a losing bet than it is to make a winning bet because you lose the juice as well. So I think there's nothing wrong with completely laying off this game. With that being said, we have done every single game on the card. We've made it through the 10:30 injury report, so that means all the games are on the board, and that means it's best bets time. Hoop, who do you got? Best bet, side, total, or prop for today?
All right, I'm not going to go with the one that we were all super excited about, so I'm going to leave it
for us. Thank you.
I'm going to leave it for somebody to grab. I'm going to go back to one of the early games, though. The Celtics -3. Bulls coming off that big win, or -4. Celtics -4. Bulls coming off the big win yesterday, back-to-back here. Boston has a lot to play for. I think they want this one more. Give me the Celtics -4.
All right, Celtics -4, and I'm with you there, placing that right now. Tyler, what do you got for me?
All right, I was going to go that route, and then Hoop took that one. I'm not going to take the other one. I'll leave that one for you. So give me Dallas -10. I think they blow Cleveland out. Cleveland doesn't look good without both their guards. Dallas needs this game more. Give me them by 10.
All right, and Tyler, they've taken a little money during the show, so we're going to give that out at -9.5. That's available on Bookmaker right now. And you know what? Hey, it's been crazy. A lot of my games have been coming down to a half point lately. I mean, I've had past 2 weeks. I've had 5 or 6 plays of like 15 or 18 total. It come down to a half point. I mean, these lines are sharp, so that half point matters. I like it. -9.5. That is the play, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for leaving the Denver Nuggets on the board. We talked about how this is such a great matchup, how they're playing so well. Give me some Austin Rivers to go ahead and fill up that guard void being left by all the injuries. Jokic has got the great matchup. So that is the 3 plays. We like the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Denver Nuggets. Hoop, thank you for jumping in on short notice. We love having you here. And if we had a rough day yesterday, if there's anyone to get us back on track, it's your insight and your wisdom. So thank you for joining us. You want to let everyone know what we've got going on over at Run Pure Sports this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, tonight we got a regular rotation of shows. Got the MLB show, 3:45 Eastern, NBA, which me and AP will be on 5 p.m. Eastern, and then JSU and Holden, 6:15 Eastern, taking you guys up to lock, talking mostly NBA, but also some MLB. And then our standard rotation on the weekends. I know we've got MMA on Saturday, so Title Time will have you covered for that. A lot of stuff going on. Keep grinding.
So if they've been enjoying the basketball content and they want to add the MLB content, how much extra is that you guys charge for that?
0. One price for everything on the site. $100 right now gets you the DFS and bets package combined. We have the promo going RPS Heater 25, which will get you 1 month for 25% off. So you'd be paying $75 for the first month. Everything, we just like the setup where it's one price for everything. A lot of these other sites, they kind of upcharge you when new sports start. Not us. It's even on the betting side, a lot of sites do that where they break it down like per sport. That's not something that we wanted to create over at Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. We wanted to just be one umbrella price tag to get you absolutely everything on the site, and I think the people like it.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that too. That's just why I wanted to throw that one in there. And of course, on the bet side, you'll get access to all of our content. You'll get access to the Sports Keg live show tonight, which will be on tomorrow night for the UFC. I did the live show with him last night, and I'll tell you what, he's excited for this card. Tyler doesn't think it's the best card for spectating, but Jay's got a lot of bets that he likes, and so we always love the opportunity to make money while watching people get knocked out. Tyler, you got anything else for us before we get out of here?
Nope, just hoping we bounce back tonight after that debacle we had last night.
Yeah, and I think we will. There's a lot of people who struggled last night. It was definitely the revenge of the dogs last night. But I think we got some great spots here with favorites and underdogs. So Tyler and I will be back tomorrow at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. And then Hoop hopefully will join me on Monday, and we will be back for the final week of the season. This should be great. There's going to be a lot of throwaway games, but there's going to be a lot of games with playoff intensity, with the matchups on the line. I've been looking forward to the schedule. I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the NBA next week. This is what we've been working hard all year for, is to be ready for this time going into the playoffs, and then the playoffs start next week. So thank you everybody for joining us. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, head on over to runpurebets.com, see everything that we've got going on. Promo code BETS 25 off if you just want to check that out. But I always encourage everyone to get the whole package, get involved with everything, take advantage of that DFS content as well. Best value in sports gambling information. Thank you everybody for joining us. Have a good weekend and run